few days ago. President Bola Tinubu, there was a shakeup in the NNPCL. He removed Mele Kyari as the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPCL, and dissolved its board. Mr. Adebayo Ojulari has officially taken over. President Bola Tinubu appointed Ojulari to replace Kyari, while Ahmadu Musa Kida was named NNPC's non-executive chairman, replacing Pius Akinyelure. The president has tasked the new leadership with ramping up NNPC's crude oil refining capacity, setting a target of 200,000 barrels per day by 2027 and an ambitious 500,000 barrels per day by 2030. The NNPCL has since announced the appointment of a new 8-man senior management team, and one wonder how daunting will the task the president has placed on the shoulders of the new leadership amidst the politics and troubles within the Niger Delta, with exploration and intense price war with petroleum products between Dangote and the NNPCL.
I want to take the opportunity personally and also on behalf of the management of NNPC and the industry to thank you for the immense contributions you have made to the progress of our industry. It's also good to say that there are a lot of improvements that we have seen over the years, a lot of clarity, a lot of improved relationships, and also some of the external things that you have done. I will be counting on your continued support. I will need a lot of it, particularly all the areas where you've succeeded, but also the areas where you've had challenges. My purpose is to consolidate the successes that NNPC has achieved and take it to the next level, as Alhaji Mele Kyari have said.
The Tinubu government needs all the kind of efforts that will ramp up production as much as it can, because that is what they're relying on to be able to push what they tag the renewed hope agenda, if they must be able to achieve anything. Well, let's get a sense of what this means for us Nigerians, the average person, the food on your table. What does this mean for the progress of this country? You wonder, what was it that the president renewed the mandate of Mele Kyari? Now he's removing him from office. Okay, so I'm being joined tonight by SDP presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Prince Adebayo. He's live for us virtually from London to give perspectives on these issues and some other issues on the state of the nation. Prince Adebayo, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much indeed. Let's begin. This decision of President Bola Tinubu, did you see it coming? And what do you make of it?
Well, I think that it's an executive prerogative because he is the Minister of Petroleum. So even if he wasn't, he is the Chief Executive of Nigeria. So now that he's Minister of Petroleum, it means that he has looked at what he wants to achieve, and he feels that he needs to rejig his team. I wouldn't say I wasn't expecting it to come. I was expecting to come earlier with respect to the fact that Mr. Kyari has survived 3 presidencies, because he had first term of President Buhari, second term of President Buhari, and now he's into almost half of President Tinubu's entire presidency. So I thought that with some of the objectives that they set in place, I was wondering how they were going to do it, because the management needed to change if the tactics are going to change. So if he's done it now, well, I'll keep my powder dry. But I will imagine that there are major problems in the upstream sector. I think in the downstream, the NNPC has managed to survive the problems of incessant scarcity of product. They've managed to revive at least one of the refineries, the Port Harcourt refineries, and I think the one in Warri appears to be coming upstream, and Kaduna has gone far. So with respect to the downstream side, I think they've done quite okay, especially with the pipelines, the gas pipeline, the AKK that they're doing. So they are more successful in the downstream. So I think the president wants to pivot to the upstream. So maybe because I know Ojulari's records, and I think in the upstream sector is probably where they want to try their luck now. But it doesn't mean that the change of this board could not have been done better, because I expected that probably should have asked, if I was president, I would have asked those who are on the board to resign rather than just fire them like that, especially since you managed to renew their mandate only recently. But I don't have all the personnel file, and I don't know what he has seen, but I thought that with what I've seen them achieve outwardly, especially in the last 3 years, I thought that it's more honorable to have asked them to resign rather than just look like fire them.
All right. So
like that.
So let's look at a few issues here. Ojulari studied engineering compared to Emele Kyari that those in the sector will say is majorly a marketer. He's an expert in marketing. And Ojulari, from 1985, when he joined ELF, to 1991, when he joined Shell, there are a lot of people who will say, count him as a solid private sector guy who has grown through the rank, becoming a chief in Shell. And you look at him coming into that particular mode that NNPCL is currently. You might see it, yes, owned by the public, but the kind of shape that it used to be, you can compare it to be 100% a private sector interest because it's owned by the public. But the issue here for me is a decision and the choice of Ojulari, his background and his profile. What do you make of it? Would you say it's a fantastic decision from Bola Tinubu, the president?
Well, Ojulari is a qualified professional in the field, and I respect that, but there are hundreds of them. Or let me not be uncharitable, there are dozens of them. What's going to make a difference is not whether you had an engineering background or whether you had marketing background. What's going to make the difference is how you relate with the chief executive. The relationship must be such that it's virtually an independent one, because the president is a politician, he has political objectives, he runs a public sector system, he can print his own money if he wants to, he can bust his budget. But for a private sector oriented NNPCL, you have to live within your means, you have to play by market rules, you have to listen to professionals more than you listen to politicians. You have to do what makes sense in the long run for the shareholders, even though the Nigerian people are the shareholders. So, which means that there will be a philosophical conflict between what the president wants to achieve politically and what the NNPC wants to achieve commercially and corporately.
So I also, Prince Adebayo, I look at the Emele Kyari era at the NNPCL, especially recently, and the kind of politics that were being played with price, the competition between the Dangote and the NNPCL in the sale of product. There are those who have criticized that there were too much of politics. If you were to tell Mr. Ojulari something that would be valuable for the benefit of the Nigerian people, because I'm not sure how much of that benefit Nigerians gain in the politicking that we saw in the price war between Dangote and the NNPCL, and how Emele Kyari ran NNPCL.
So from what I see, we need to understand that NNPC is not the regulator, NNPCL. The regulator of that, of the product range will be the downstream regulator. And NNPC is not, though it's a shareholder in the private refinery of Dangote, but they have their own refineries too, and they have their own value chain. So we should expect some reasonable competition if we are adopting the market approach. So I don't think that NNPCL would want to fall on his sword just to make Dangote a little more profitable. So the bit of competition between them is not bad if they are competing in an ethical way and they are allowing for a journey towards the perfect market where supply and demand will meet without necessary inhibition. So I don't think I would, as president, I would tell my own refinery, or my own company that has its own refinery, to just please a private sector person that will have his own refinery. But higher and above Dangote and above NNPCL, I'll have to have a plan to make fuel affordable to the Nigerian people. And those are regulatory decisions, not taken at the level of NNPC, which is to license more refineries, to produce more, and to create financial incentives for those who want to improve our refinery capacity in Nigeria rather than favor those who want to import from abroad. Because if you import from abroad, you are exporting labor and productivity overseas and poverty into your own country through unemployment.
Right. So, Prince,
different levels of decision making.
Yeah, it does look to me that President Bola Tinubu wants the Warri and the Port Harcourt refinery to work optimally, and he has given a specific task to Ojulari and his headship of the NNPCL. And the tasks are very simple. Go and give me 200,000 barrels per day for the next 2 years and 500,000 barrels per day in the next 5 years. That is the task immediately when the president made an announcement that Mele Kyari can go home, Ojulari can take over. This is the immediate task, amongst other things, as you will always find when public officers or people are being given responsibilities like that. Is this a banana peel for Ojulari, considering some of what we know and some of the issues that are bedeviling the effectiveness of the publicly owned refineries and the manner in which they have gone about rehabilitating those refineries?
Well, all I can say is that I am not easily enthused by politicians giving corporate directives to a company that has its own board and they have their own management targets and realities. So this automatic alacrity issue, I think, is more for the political optics, because in reality, NNPC the way oil companies run. I've done 21 years of advising oil companies in the world. You don't make your decision on the day you put a new CEO. Usually there's a long-term plan. And if I hear these numbers correctly, they're not far from what Mele Kyari himself was pursuing. So I think the best we can say is that the president is probably re-echoing what has been briefed before by the former administration, or the target he had with the previous administration, and letting Mr. Ojulari to know that these are the things we are aiming at achieving, but I don't think it's something that he has just carved out for Ojulari. It's something that the old management also was pursuing. And with time will tell if Mr. Ojulari is going to be able to do better, especially part of the lead time for performance has been undertaken by the Mele Kyari Pius Akinye group. That this immediate past management has started that journey. And there have been, even in the upstream side, there have been some new arrangement with the IOCs to explore new fields and to meet the target because of the fiscal problem that Nigeria has. If you look at our budget, we are not meeting the OPEC quota given to us, and we have a very large population, and we have budget deficit. And we also now are improving our refining capacity, so we need to have more crude to be given as feedstock to the local refineries. So that is those targets. I don't think that even if you remove Ojulari tomorrow, the targets will change. What I would expect, the three things: one, those targets look too modest, and maybe the president understands the executive and management capacity of NNPCL, but I would think that those targets, if I were president, they are too modest. They should have been at least twice that target. Secondly, how they perform also depends on the angle that the president shows to them. If the president allows them to run as corporate people, commercial people, and there's less pressure to use the golden eggs of NNPC to finance the political program of the government, to finance the deficit of the government, and all of that. If they are allowed to work on their throughput, to develop their value chain, and have a proper, healthy balance sheet that you will find in Petrobras and some other competitors that they might have, contemporaries in the world, if you follow that petroleum marketing or petroleum production or petroleum industry accounting standards, where there are no opaque parts where you're just financing politics or funding public sector programs, if they do that, Ojulari will be a lucky person. But when it comes to Mele Kyari, he has his own problems. We must give him some kudos because his ability to transform from the same NNPCL where majority of their crude was being stolen to one now where they have addressed it and reduced the theft to where they have been able to carry on projects. Because I remember when the Chinese pulled funding from their AKK pipeline, I was impressed that they were able to use their own internal funding to carry on that project and not fail. So we should give kudos to Mele Kyari, and the fact that he was an NNPC original, somebody who came from within, rose from the ranks to the top, shows that the corporate memory of that organization is capable of producing even the Ojulari type if he kind of give them a new orientation. So, but the buck lies with the president because if he starts with a commercial mind, start with clear targets, but when it's under pressure, when elections come, when you need money to fund elections, when you need to satisfy social programs, if you start to put pressure on Ojulari might become another Mele or the earlier version of Mele. So the president himself, the Minister of State, Senator Heineken, and many of the people who are involved in the supervision of Mr. Ojulari should give him a break and should allow him to use his corporate judgment to make business decisions.
In another month or so, this government will be 2 years in office. And this is a government that you would have preferred to be in office because you ran against the APC, you were on the ballot, but you were not fortunate to have won that election. But here we are. In the last 2 years or so, Prince Adebayo, how would you assess this government in terms of one thing that is very paramount? I mean, people rate security as higher than the economy. But I see economy that, in fact, is a form of security. If you don't have money, if you don't have, in fact, most of the insecurities that we are seeing in today's Nigeria are due to economic problems. So how would you rate these government? Are they able to secure this country economically speaking?
The stomach of the people and the tension on their faces will not show that. The number of young people who have no employment will not show that. The parallel state of infrastructure will not show that. The fact that our currency is highly depreciated and devalued will not show that. The higher debt will not show that. So I think that, let's just say that they are beginning to, they spend 2 years to try to settle down. I don't know what they want to do with their Minister of Finance and Minister of Budget and Planning, because they've done two budgets. I don't like any of the two budgets, and they suffered the same problem. Their budget performance last year was two parlors. They are in the mid-20s in their performance of the budget. So if you have 20-something% performance of your budget, it means that at best, you deliver 20-something% of the promises you made. So essentially, 7.5 of 10 promises you made failed. So that is not a good start, but I have advised them, and I'll keep advising them. 2 years is enough to make a difference. The next 2 years, we'll be fighting them because we'll be competing for the same position again from next year. But I plead with them to try to have compassion and to repurpose at least 10% of their budget towards direct intervention in the areas of employment, to do quick things that if you start, you can get the results in 180 days, to start working with employment, start working with dealing with reducing cost of food and essential commodities, and to do something about public transportation. The CNG, which they started, is in the right direction, but they are very slow. So they don't have all the time in the world. They may not have more than 4 years. They should not be deceived. There's no guarantee of the second term. I'm even working to make sure they don't get the second term. So, and I'm still here. So there are many people like me trying to make sure they don't get second term. So they should make a golden opportunity of these 4 years that they have. They've used about half of it. It is not irredeemable. I believe that there are people in the government. For example, if we look at what the FCT minister has done, it shows to you that in this government, it is possible to get something done. And the one in Interior, some of the changes he's made, I hope that the blue economy people follow that. The Minister of Works, I think he's poorly served in terms of how much money is made available for him to do his works program. But they should be more creative. They should find a way to manage that and dwell into getting private capital in the country. There's a lot of private capital in people's hand in Nigeria to try to find a way to raise funds for infrastructure. If they do that, they will be able to help with the number. The fact that they went to start adjusting the basis for calculating inflation, well, you can do that, but rebasing the inflation database is not going to change the actual reality on the street. So why don't you combine that with doing something on the street? And I want you to understand that life is extremely hard for the average person in Nigeria, and the president needs the average person in Nigeria for the amount of productivity that's going to raise the GDP, that's going to make the economy competitive.
Prince Adebayo, you said that some of you are working, and you are particularly working not to allow President Tinubu and the APC return to office in 2027. But those in the APC who believe that in today's Nigeria's politics, there isn't anyone that can stop Bola Tinubu from returning to power in 2027. How do you hope, or how are you planning to achieve your dream of stopping Bola Tinubu and the APC in 2027?
First is to engage with them, to make sure that they know that we love the country. We are not against them as persons, but we are against their policies, and to take these policies one by one, and to ensure that we expose these policies and the weaknesses of these policies to the Nigerian people. It is in the interest of Nigerians, in the interest of even APC members, because there are millions of them who are suffering as well as the rest of Nigerians, because once you leave your party headquarters and you go into the taxi or Uber, or you go to the market, or you go to school or hospital, nobody cares about your political party anymore. What this government has done is to mismanage economic opportunities and to exacerbate problems they met on the ground. So what we are trying to do now is to let Nigerians know that even though the government has failed so far, it doesn't have to fail in the next 2 years. We can put them on their toes. But should they fail, as they are determined, it looks like, to fail, because they are not changing policies, we are better policies at convince Nigerians and that we're going to be compassionate, we're going to pay attention to the basics of the economy, we're going to ensure that public sector officials are not doing private businesses, that they are focusing on public sector delivery, and that where Tinubu has produced about 2 or 3 ministers that are doing very well, in our own case, all of them will do better than even the best of them now. I will take that campaign, we talk to the Nigerian people, and I believe that people who say that President Tinubu is unshakable, they forget about the humanity of President Tinubu, just a human being like the rest of us. No human being can say, I'm unshakable, only God is unshakable. Secondly, those who said it in the past, including PDP, say we'll do 60 years in power, they barely did 16 years. And the people who said, even the National Security Advisor today was on the side of President Goodluck Jonathan, and he said that an incumbent president could never be beaten. That was Nuhu Ribadu. The same Nuhu Ribadu is probably one of those who are still saying now that President Tinubu is unshakable. But the day the new government is being sworn in, President Tinubu going back to Lagos, these people are going to say the next government to be irreplaceable. What is clear is that the only reason, the only possibility that can make us not to defeat Tinubu in 2027 is if he does his job now. Because Nigerian people are not looking at my face, they're not looking at his face, they're looking at the faces of their children, hungry for food, unemployed.
But President Adebayo, the question will be, on what platform would you be using? Is it SDP? It looks like you have confirmed with yourself that you are running in 2027. But with the likes of Nasir El-Rufai and a lot of people who are joining your party, do you even stand a chance of getting the ticket?
Getting the ticket depends on the SDP people. They know me. People joining my party, we're welcoming them. You can see how active I am in welcoming them. The only little issue we have with some of them is to change the culture where, if you have not been in an environment before, where there are rules or where rules are taken seriously. Some of them are doing some Boy Scout black market operation. We are dealing with that, but we welcome them into the party. We believe that their coming in will strengthen the party. I am not at all perturbed that these names that you mentioned, El-Rufai, Vice President Atiku Abubakar, other people, even I'm told Governor Peter Obi is coming. A lot of people are coming. We welcome them. We don't have a problem with them.
Peter Obi is joining SDP?
Supposedly, until somebody joins, we don't know. But his people are coming. My national secretary has also informed me that they are talking, they are coming. I said, welcome everybody. So when we come in, and we don't become a Tower of Babel, if we come in, we follow the rules, and we allow one person to emerge transparently, clearly, without cheating, without criminality, without all sorts of things that Nigerians will say, oh my God, these same people have become these other type of people as well.
Yeah.
The way we did our convention in 2022, the people applauded us transparently, no court case, no crisis, no allegations. If they can change to our culture and they don't have fear that, oh, if I don't cheat, I can't win. If I don't bribe, I can't win. If they follow the way we do in SDP, I will produce a good alternative to Nigerian, and the Nigerians see we are going to manifestly defeat APC and retire President Tinubu to Lagos or wherever he chooses in Nigeria, and we are going to start taking care of Nigerian people for day one.
But does the SDP have that kind of structure? The PDP can boast of structure. In fact, the Labour Party might boast of a better structure than the SDP, considering the fact that they hold better seats than the SDP. But what will the SDP be holding on to be able to boast and say they want to roundly defeat APC that has how many states, how many leading in the National Assembly? Where do you start from without a party that the main ruling party has described as structureless?
Yeah, they can say we are structureless, but we rely on Nigerian people. We don't have any structure based on criminality, structure based on bribery or diversion of public funds. We are relying on the structure based on the people, and the people who are working hardest for SDP to come to power are APC, because they have turned the furnace fire on the back of Nigerian people. They are making Nigerian people sweat for little pay. When they get the pay, you cannot buy them food. They are making life tough. They are making grandiose decisions that don't favor the people. They are spending trillions on projects that are invisible, that you cannot see. So people are driving on roads that are not paved, but we are building roads by the side that nobody can see the road. We have a 55 trillion naira budget that doesn't trickle down to the people. So President Tinubu is working hard for us to come to power and defeat him. He's working hard to see that he's going to be the last APC president. So that they are working very hard in that regard because they're not taking care of the people.
So the question here, you're a lawyer, and I mean, being on the ballot in 2023 would have given you an insight into how some of these things work. We've seen coalitions, we've seen political alignments in the past in the country. There are those who say, look, the only way you can defeat the status quo that is in power right now is if there is a proper organization, if opposition come together, just like the way Bola Tinubu and his friends came together and organized properly before 2015 election and roundly defeated the ruling PDP at the time. But there are those who are saying that organization doesn't look. Everybody wants to be president in the opposition. And that disunity and disjointed opinions and agenda will be the downfall of the possible realignment and the setup that we're getting within the opposition party. And you know it, that legally speaking, there is a corridor on which you can run and which there is a platform by law on which you can run for election in this country. So that understanding, Prince, if you can wrap up our conversation tonight, it's going to be a very difficult one, don't you think?
Well, yes, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And we're not letting our cat out of the bag yet. What we are saying is this. The fact that there are many people wanting to be president, I want to be president, everybody knows that. The Vice President Atiku Abubakar, I believe, wants to be president. Peter Obi wants to be president. There are other people who want to be president who are not talking. That doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is that all of you, if you are in same framework, if the framework is fair and reasonable and decisive, and everybody at the end of the exercise comes together to pull behind the winner, is going to work. What is not going to work is a coalition or whatever you call it that does not carry the people along. Because politicians overrate themselves. Once you hold one position before or the other, you think you are a big person, but a single vote is bigger than all your degrees and all your resume. What we want to do now is an alliance with Nigerian people. And that has not been tried before. What APC tried before, and that produced President Buhari, and the result of which followed for President Tinubu, was a coalition of politicians. And that's why we're telling some of our friends who are looking backward to think forward, that look, what you need to understand is that a coalition of politicians will not impress anybody anymore, because the first coalition of politicians in 2015 only satisfied the politicians and left the people high and dry and poor. So right now, what people need is not about a coalition of big names. They want a coalition with Nigerian people, which means you have a clear ideology that people can identify with. You have clear rules for competition, and that you do it on time and do it early. And I can guarantee you, once the intention is clear that we want to serve Nigerian people, they will give us a chance, and we are going to make President Tinubu a one-term president.
Prince Adebayo, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in 2023. Thank you so much indeed for your views tonight.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.